Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and today I would like to share with you guys my final thoughts on the MBK Monterey Bay Knives Sea Otter. Now to my knowledge, these things are just damn near impossible to get. There are about maybe 5 made every year. That's definitely an exaggeration. I don't know how much are made every year, but it is a microscopic amount of them, and they're probably never put up actually on the website. I do follow the brand on Instagram and Ray Laconico himself, which is co-designer. Maybe this might actually be a full design from him, but I know that a handful are taken to knife shows, SHOT Show, things like that, which I will never experience because I'm not willing to book a hotel and a plane ticket just to go spend even more money on knives. I'll probably end up, if a person like me with credit like I do goes to a knife convention, I am so screwed. So absolutely screwed because I have horrendous self-control. With that being said, just letting you guys know, if this is something that you guys think you want, just you're gonna wait in a very long line, definitely. I got extremely lucky. I count myself very lucky. I actually found this individual unit on nafsale.com. I purchased this knife along with another custom knife. They were both users, definitely, but and there are actually some weird things about this knife that I didn't really notice at first because I was just so in shock of experiencing this knife. I saw it, I saw an opportunity, and I went for it, and it happened just so quickly. I was just taken by so many little details that I kind of overlooked a couple little things. So with that little rant out of the way, I do have Monterey Bay Knives website pulled up here on my laptop off to the side, and it says that regular price for this thing is $400. Yeah, sure. I'll take a handful of those. This is I will say that this is a lot of knife for that amount of money, for how much work goes into this, and I'm not 100% sure if this is a full custom knife or there are some production parts to this, but there are definitely some human elements to this, and not to even talking about the aftermarket custom work that was done to it, which was included in the overall price that I ended up spending. But so what I ended up spending is a little bit more than to get one of these guys brand new. But $400, I mean, if you're able to get one, go for it. Please go for it. The overall length of this guy is 6.875, blade length 3 inches, which is perfect for me in my opinion. Blade thickness is 0.135. That's pretty freaking thick. Wait, is that? I think that's talking about the actual stock thickness because this thing is built like a brick. Not 100% sure. The handle length is 3.75 inches. Blade material is Magna Cut, and it doesn't say here what the HRC is. Not really that big of a deal. I'm sure it's heat treated just fine. I have actually sharpened this thing twice, once to reprofile because it basically didn't have an edge on it at all, and I did sharpen it. I think it was 25 degrees each side. If I went any closer, I would have ended up removing a lot of material, and I want to keep this thing alive for a good amount of time, so I was really concerned about removing too much material when reprofiling. The finish on this thing overall is a blasted stonewash, full tie, everything. It says that the weight here is 3.1 ounces. I have a little scale here just to verify, just cause some people care, some people don't. 3.1, look at that, wow. And of course, place of origin, country of origin is the freaking USA. So with that being said, in that other way, let's bust out some size comparison knives. Got a handful here. Kind of go backwards than I typically do. This is a Civivi Elementum with just about the same amount of cutting edge there, and a forward finger control versus a flat finger space area there. Handle length is just about the same, but they feel quite different in the hand for sure. Let's put this up here. Benchmade bug out. Just longer overall, more usable blade length, not by much. And the point comes down. Actually, you know what? The Benchmade, the bug out actually has a little bit of a lower point there. So honestly, not too much where I've actually noticed it. I have taken this to work a handful of times, and it is awesome. It is really nice. Here I have the Demco 8020.5. And let's do the Osborne 940. So yeah, this is a little guy for sure. Last two knives here. This giant freaking brick, Spyderco PM2. This other little brick, Native 5. So I think that is plenty good for size comparison knives, and let's just get right into this. There are a lot of little things that I didn't notice when I purchased this that I think were kind of weird after taking a look at some pictures of other people's units. So I want to go over that really quickly. Obviously, the regular one that you go to purchase doesn't have any sort of milling, no micro milling, no texturing, nothing. It is a wonderful canvas for that. And you go and outsource some aftermarket work like the individual who previously owned this. I will link down, if I remember to, the individual on Instagram. I actually follow him now. He does just sick work, absolutely awesome work. If you're watching, dude, you're freaking awesome. You're doing some really crazy stuff that I didn't even think was possible with metal and materials like this. But the engraving on this, it is a Chinese or Japanese wave pattern, and it is pretty darn nice. There's also this like concrete or like stone texturing all around this thing. My phone camera, and even with my pretty decent lighting, can't do this justice. It can't. And it doesn't feel like much either. But it's unique everywhere. It's I don't know how it's accomplished. It's beyond me. It really is. But a couple little things that I did notice that were kind of weird is on the pocket clip, which is very functional. It's a titanium pocket clip. The hardware is different. One is kind of like a button. The other one sticks out a little bit further. They both work just fine. The back spacers here, they're a different style. The middle piece is thinner there. It's thicker over here. I don't know if maybe the individual who owned this or the individual who owned before that, because I think I might be the third owner of this thing by now. Maybe some parts were swapped. I don't know. But I haven't noticed any issues with those extra pieces of hardware. They're not chewed up. There's nothing wrong with the screws. The threads are clean. Super freaking clean. This knife is ridiculously easy to take apart and maintain. And it's so easy to get back to this like super light and consistent action. Now, one thing that I definitely had to get a little accustomed to is that when I unboxed this, I said, oh yeah, I'm just gonna flex the exposed frame like here over a little bit to strengthen that detent because it's a little too light. No, it wasn't that. It's because I suck and I don't know what I'm talking about half the time. I did that and I created a little bit of lock stick. So I backed it off a little bit, got it to close to how it was when I got it. And now it's zero lock stick. And after having this for the time that I've had, I'm able to get it almost every time. And it's actually quite enjoyable. Reverse flick it's a little bit different. Thumb flick, it's sweet. You just really got to get under it and just be really, really short with the motion. You don't want to carry it all the way, kind of like how, like, what's here? Like with my PM2 here, like I really got to get my thumb in there to get this thing out. If I just use, and they're both on washers, but the action is night and day between the two. Yes, US made, yes, US made, but it's, they can't compare. They just can't. The action on my PM2, it still has a tiniest little bit of stick now, but with no side-to-side play, this thing is becoming quite slick. Just take a look at that. But even still, I have to really carry that blade out, and the motion is just a little bit more exaggerated. To get this out, for me, my experience with this unit, my action, or my, I guess, engagement with these thumb studs needs to be a little stouter, a little shorter. It just needs to be just straight up. The most amount of resistance, I need to create that resistance essentially by pushing straight up instead of out to the side. I have actually another little budget knife that I got that it doesn't have a whole lot of access, but if you get the thumb studs right, it has pretty sweet action for how small it is. And it was a learning curve, definitely. So at first I was just like, man, this thing kind of sucks. You know, it's just, it's not as snappy as I wanted it to be. No, it's not the knife's fault. It was my fault. I didn't know how to open it, and that's kind of embarrassing at this point. Like, I have no reason to be spending this kind of money if I don't know how to operate this knife. Some people may think that. For a second, I thought that too. But, you know, this has been a pretty wonderful experience overall. There's not a whole lot much more that I really need to say about this thing. Don't mess with the lock bar tension unless you actually do have lock rock issues. Then you can disassemble, flex it over just a little bit. Here's the relief cut. It is very large and generous, and it's easy to work with, right? It's not super complicated. It's just simple frame lock, very standard. But the way that it's done, it's absolutely excellent. The washers, I have polished them, and I have KPL original in there. But the reason why the detent is so light, it's because the ceramic detent ball is tiny. It is absolutely tiny. So that creates for a decent, like there's no movement. There's no, well, maybe there's just the slightest little bit there. But I knew that going into this thing, right? You know, Kevin from Lefty EDC, he bought one brand new, I believe, or bought it from someone else. And he had the same issue. There were probably like 4 other YouTubers that have reviewed and handled one of these things, and they've all said the same thing, that that's just, it's kind of a thing. Honestly, I think with as long as those reviews have been out and how new the Magna Cut versions are, I think that that's something that really should have been taken into consideration when making the new models. Larger detent, make it a little tighter, a little snappier. The action, it's not going to be drop shutty unless you actually hyperextend that lock bar, and that's when you will create lock rock issues. You definitely don't want that on a knife for sure. But once you get everything nice and snug, yeah, the pivot, it is free spinning, but it is machined in such a way that it's actually really easy to mess around with and to tighten, take apart, things like that, and just do basic maintenance on it. So no side to side, up or down. It is nice and snug. I can muscle some movement out of there, but I mean, that's not that big of a deal. The most important thing is side to side and up and down play. The action, it's ridiculously slick. It's super smooth. And with this having washers and the overall thickness of the blade and even behind the edge thickness, this is a very polarizing knife because the blade and the action, having the washers, makes you think this thing is a tank. It really is. But when having it in hand and actually using it, This feels like it's maybe a little bit more on the side of a more proper, more gentlemanish, if you will, knife. It's just, I don't know. That's the feeling that I'm getting. This feels like something that, while I know it is sturdy and made very well, it's just, I personally would like to have had this blade shape, or not the blade shape, a hollow grind would have been beautiful. Because you can still keep that that thickness there if you want. But this thing cuts thick. It really does. Now, it blazes through any kind of stuff that you would really interact with, right? Paper, cardboard, plastic, light duty things like that. But when you start using something as thick as this is behind the edge, and the spine thickness and all that, it's not fully flat ground. It's pretty darn close. But going through cardboard with a hair whittling edge on this thing, still you feel it. You feel like you're really pushing this through material. It doesn't glide through. Eventually I'm probably gonna have somebody do a regrinding on this and maybe just try to put it back to the same stonewash finish, because I really like that. I think that that's honestly the only miss here. It's just, it cuts thick, if that makes any sense. I think it's wonderful that there is little to no branding on this. It's very subtle. Here you have the little MBK emblem there on the back of it, or the left side. That's nice. That's cool. Nice little subtle thing. It's like, if you know, you know. And then, so there's nothing here on the spine. I know Ray Laconico on like his Wii knives, or collaboration with Wii knives, they usually have his name either there or like somewhere back over here or something like that, or maybe on like a backspacer. But yeah, I like that this is a very subtle knife. This is a knife where it's like, if you know, you know. And it's honestly a pretty cool knife. I'm gonna hold on to it for a while. I'm gonna look into getting a regrinding done on it, because I want this thing to perform. I want to be able to carry this thing a lot, because the action, once I dialed it in and once I got accustomed to it, I don't want to put this thing down. It's pretty darn nice, and it's super smooth. So like I mentioned before earlier, if you can get your hands on one of these at that price, at that $400 price point, buy multiples. You'll thank yourself later. I definitely would. If I had the opportunity, I would definitely buy two. One for maybe a more premium modifications, and then one for a more rugged build. Like I said, I might be the third owner of this, for as far as I know. And so this has been through a couple hands, and obviously there are some parts that look like they have been interchanged, but the hardware doesn't look chewed up. So it's safe to say that the hardware is pretty darn high quality. And even though that the body and the clip screws are T6s, which I hate, and a lot of people hate too, and I'm sure Ray Laconico knows, they're still making them with T6. But at least they're high quality and they're hardened. It's fine. It's not the end of the world. So with that being said, if you like this video, go ahead, give this video a like. If you do enjoy my content, consider subscribing and turning on your notification bell so you're notified of future videos that have coming up in your way. So with that being said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.